We are getting ready here for the last presentation of JNUC. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful time here. I know I have to wake up at 2 in the morning to order my iPhone 10, so that'll be fun. Yeah, exactly. But we've been doing the product sessions here all day, and we of course view Jamf Nation as one of our products too. So to talk about what's new with Jamf Nation is the product owner for Jamf Nation, Emily Brown. Emily, come on up.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Hello. Hi. I am so excited to be here. And I am so thankful that you guys stayed to the last session on the last day to talk about Jamf Nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I really hope that this kicks off. This is my first JNUC on stage talking to folks. So I really, really want this to start a relationship where you feel incredibly comfortable, if not too comfortable, to come to us and let us know how we're doing with your community. And that's what I really view Jamf Nation as, your website, your community. Myself, my title says owner in it, but I don't own it. You guys own it. I see us, and I wonder if the Thunderdome team feels the same way, that we're really stewards of what is the biggest advantage that we hope to make for you, your career as a Mac admin. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, and feel free, night or day, reach out to us and let us know. As I said, my name is Emily Brown. I actually started in December of last year, so this is probably the first time a lot of you are seeing me this week. I'm totally focused on Jamf Nation. I don't have too many other distractions in my life, so I'm really all yours. Please use this time, this session. This is your time. This is your website. Please, please, please do not hesitate to interrupt me, to reach out today or another time. This is truly your session. That said, I do have a couple of objectives today. We're going to go through a very influential survey that we had early in the year that explains what we did in the second half of 2017. We're going to take a step back and also look at the first half of 2017 outside the lens of that survey result. We're going to look at 2018 just a little bit at the highest level possible, because I want to give you the opportunity to say, no, Brown, don't do that. Nope, that's a bad idea. Or say, yes, do that, and do it this way. Just give me those tweaks. Give us those nudges. And finally, that will open a nice dialogue. Hopefully we can transition into a nice dialogue about what's working on the site for you, what's not working on the site for you, where do you want us to go with what is truly, truly, truly your community resource. If you disagree with me on that point, tell me why, because I need it to be your community resource. I need to know where we're failing you in that respect. Okay. So in May of 2017, we conducted a survey, a very, very loose, high-end, high-order thinking, open-ended survey, and we got a lot of really terrific results back from that. That led into the second half of our roadmap for this year and is really starting to influence 2018, as I said. And then there's two main themes that came out of the survey that I want to talk about a little bit, and let you tell me if I deduced the right thing or not, because I'm using these two themes that you see at the bottom of the screen, trust and reducing the noise. Are those the right lenses to put every product decision through to make a decision about what we do with your community website? Okay, so what did we learn in our survey? We learned 4 areas of opportunity, and the first one is search. Loud and clear, we hear you. Our search is really, really challenging, and I am very excited to say that later this year, knock on wood, or plexiglass, that we are going to address that for you. If you have any thoughts about how to influence that, please let us know today, because we have the Thunderdome team is here today to take your suggestions on where to go with that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but we know that search is the thing to focus on, so we're working on it. Next opportunity for Jamf Nation is training. This really surprised me, but I'm very happy to say that there's a couple of things that we are working on and have collaborated with other departments to offer training, or to increase the offerings of training. Third, communication from Jamf. I I'm pretty new, but I'm kind of under the impression, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, that traditionally we've been really shy to post on Jamf Nation. Jamfs have been really shy to post on Jamf Nation to a degree that's actually doing us a disservice. And you needed to hear more announcements from us, product changes, things like downtime on the website or announcements. You needed to hear from us on that stuff. So we're making a couple changes. We've made a couple changes, and we're open to more to make sure that you're getting the right kind of communication from us to you. And then, probably no surprise here, feature requests. We know that feature requests is a big area of opportunity. I want the end of the conversation to go there. Like, let's take that today and figure out what we can do better. The themes I mentioned. All of the comments in this survey, all of the great interviews, I've had a lot of interviews with a lot of you, all of the other customer interactions that I've heard about from other Jamfs as I've learned about our industry, learned about our organization. You've got two themes at the forefront of your mind at all times. Tell me if I've totally read this wrong. But pervasive through all of the comments has been trust. Almost every comment that we receive to questions has to do with trust and making sure that you can find information and resources, people, networks that you trust. And closely related to that is being able to get to that information that you trust quickly. So reducing the noise. How can we get the information that you trust in your hands as quickly as possible with as few distractions as possible? And those are the two lenses that I try to drive every decision, every product decision that we make through a lot of times before I even bring it up to the team. Do we address trust? Do we keep your trust? Do we reinforce your trust? And do we make it easier to find that trusted material? Okay, so quick step back in time. Mid-year purchasing and renewals. We, in the very early part of the year, took on this enormous project and task to redo our renewals. And with that, give you something rather than just do boring old tech debt to actually give you a feature that you might like is the mid-year purchasing process. You heard me talk about this a little bit on Tuesday. We know that compliance is a big deal for a few members of Jamf Nation. But when it is a big deal, it's a really big deal. So we wanted to give you a familiar, easy, low-touch process that you can initiate. You don't have to wait for somebody else to contact you, that you can do this just like you have been doing your renewals in the past. So we're calling it True Up. You can True Up with us at any time. A couple other things that happen with the renewal process and this mid-year purchasing are hopefully all things that you didn't notice. The progress bar across the top for both processes is a lot simpler. It's a lot cleaner. We removed a lot of back and forth between Salesforce, which is the source of truth with Jamf Nation, and Jamf Nation, so decreasing the opportunity for you to experience performance problems or errors. Hopefully, that was so smooth, you had no idea it was ever a problem, but we're there. Lastly, with our mid-year purchasing and renewals, we started to try and introduce the concept of managing tvOS. We know that that's where the world is going. We know that that's an incredibly powerful Apple tool that people are using. We wanted you to start thinking about tvOS as a unique thing and not lumped in with iOS. So we started that opportunity early. Other big thing that we did that hopefully you noticed nothing. Hopefully this was just so easy and obvious and you were just like, oh, was it always that way? I don't know. Hopefully this was very, very easy on you to transition, but we rewrote our My Assets page. Some minor UX changes that again address a lot of that error-prone probability that we had before, but also opens up the door for the future where we are supplying more information about your assets in Jamf Nation that you actually care about in a place that you're used to going for it. So the first stuff that we added here is instance name. I believe hosted region is in there, and we also moved activation codes. What I'm really excited to talk about and what I really want to hear from you is where we can take this next. Because our relationship with the code bases between Jamf Nation and Salesforce are getting better and better all the time on our side. I'd like to know what kind of assets and services you use from Jamf that you want to see in Jamf Nation. I'm going to throw a couple out there, and then let me know what you think, either at the end of the session or at any point, really. Professional services. If you engage our professional services team for anything, we know that there's an hour block there. Do you want a gauge of like how many hours have you spent, how many hours are pending, are you fulfilled? Is that an asset that you'd be interested in having a window into? Healthcare Listener, if there's anybody using Healthcare Listener and those other kinds of services that we haven't brought to the forefront of our mind in the My Assets page, we can do that stuff now. What are the services and products that you're using from Jamf that you want to see and manage from My Assets? Let me know. Another major focus for the Jamf Nation team this year was our international community. So we've done a lot of behind-the-scenes work that, again, you probably haven't noticed, that is supporting our international folks, starting with language tags. So we added a tag for French, in French, I'm not going to try and butcher it, German, Spanish, and I believe Japanese is out there as well. So if you are more comfortable writing in those languages, writing Jamf Nation posts in those languages, tag it as such and get those folks involved. We also did this to help with our friends in TechCom who are focusing on the international community and supporting the ability to serve up documents in other languages, like Japanese. So you'll see that very soon. The field services team, they're in charge of this thing called primer sessions, and they recorded all of our existing primer sessions in 4 languages, three languages. So not only are we looking at that training issue, we're looking at that training issue internationally. So we've got recorded sessions that don't require you to be somewhere near Central Time or get up at a crazy hour to attend our live sessions. You've got the recorded session available, and you've got a recorded session available in a language that hopefully is one that you care about. Lastly, the hosted regions that Jay mentioned on Tuesday morning. As our international presence grows and our community grows, we added Sydney, Australia, and Tokyo, Japan to our hosted regions list. Yay! Oh, there's one thing that's not on here that I do want to address. So we know that traditionally Jamf Nation has been very English biased, and it has been very biased towards the central time zone. And we're slowly working behind the scenes to kind of rip out those biases and eventually allow you to, I don't know, see a posting time that's in a time zone that you know, and you don't have to do the math behind the scenes and figure out when something was posted. Okay, so now we're moving in the second half of the year. Now we're taking lessons learned from our survey and applying them to Jamf Nation, the website. And Likes is the one I want to talk about. This is the one that's out today. It's been up since early September, I think. And the point of a like is not so much the warm fuzzies of social interaction, which is a great side benefit, but it's really to start establishing what that best content on Jamf Nation is, so you're not guessing. Because we know trust is an issue and you want to know that your ad information you trust, if someone has liked it, if a lot of people have liked it, you have relative confidence in your network that it's valuable. I mentioned on Tuesday that we're adding filters. So again, we can filter on the likes content, thus floating that content up to you, serving it up a little bit more obviously. And eventually we're also going to be able to incorporate that, should you want, into our search algorithm so that is weighted just a little bit more so you can get the content you're actually interested in front of you. Stuff you can like. You can like discussions, you can like articles, and you can also like comments of discussions, articles, and feature requests. You cannot like a feature request, as we figured that was probably redundant to votes. Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay. But you can like a comment of a feature request, and I really hope that you enjoy this and take advantage of it. Oftentimes, a feature request starts out in one place, and solutioning goes on in the comments. And the stuff that's really interesting about the feature request gets lost 90 comments down. If you like that stuff, let us know. Right now, the comments all just look equal value. If you like certain things, that helps us understand the implementation that you're interested in a little bit better, and maybe also the problem that you're trying to solve just a little bit better. So please, please, please use the likes. We want you to be engaged in your community in this way. What else is going on with likes, if anything? I don't think much. We can move on. On Tuesday, I talked about our beta program. The idea here is that we're tightening that feedback loop from the customer feedback to our development cycle. You heard Jay on Tuesday say that Jamf Pro is going to move in a more iterative fashion so that we can develop quicker and we can get feedback quicker and we can implement that feedback much quicker. So please, please, please keep an eye out for more beta programs. As those iterations happen, there's going to be overlap from one program to the next. And I'm curious what you think about this as well. I'm curious if you think it's appropriate to call something a beta when we're asking you to preview a new feature set. So could we call something a beta, serve that build up to you, and say, this beta, this build focuses on these features. And that feature might not come out for another couple versions. Versions isn't the right word, another couple iterations. But if we can get that information from you sooner than later, is that a valuable use of our beta functionality? Is the language confusing or is the language clear? That's where we want to go. That's what we'd like to go to see, to tighten that feedback loop. But we need you to tell us if that's even where you want to see the community go. And then we did a lot of incremental things that really supported the 4 major themes that we saw in that survey. So new tags. In addition to the new language tags, we've also got Jamf Now tag. Any Jamf Nows in the audience? Aw, okay. How about ed tech? Can I get a show of hands of who's in ed? Yes. Okay, did you know that there's an ed tech tag? It's relatively new. Okay, use it. On the great advice of David Saltmarsh, he wanted a ed tech tag so that you can follow it and see what's happening on your topic. But where we were really underserving our ed tech community was not streamlining or reducing the noise and getting you right to the topics that you cared about. It made you do a lot of sifting that might not apply to ed and only commercial or vice versa. So please, please, please use that tag. Pinning a discussion. Hopefully you guys have noticed this. I think there's been a handful of days, I can probably count the number of days on 2 hands, how many days we haven't had a discussion pinned at the top of our news feed. This is us stepping out of our Midwestern modesty and trying to talk about ourselves in a polite and respectful way, but get you the information that you're actually interested in coming from Jamf. Stuff like beta announcements, more information about versions, more information about releases, more information about just our general business. And especially leading up to JNUC, there's been a couple really interesting things that we wanted to highlight and put at the top for you. So let us know how we're doing on that, and let us know if there's the nature of the discussion is what you're, that we're pinning is what you're interested in. Where are the gaps? What aren't we communicating well? Semantic versioning. We knew that that was the big issue in 2016. Hopefully by now, with our release of 10 here in a couple days, the semantic versioning thing is straightened out. Let us know. How'd it go? And then finally, email. How do we even start with this one? I think I've talked to probably quite a few of you in the last couple of months about the situation with our email notifications. And we needed to make sure that the email notification problem, if there was one, or that experience, that we were doing everything we could on the Jamf Nation side to ensure you were getting the emails that you cared about. So we've been slowly rewriting our email process, and it's positioned us, let me know what you think about this, it's positioned us in a place where we can make changes, we can make nuanced changes to the kinds of things you want to opt in and out of. And then we also are in a place where we can start targeting actions if you're interested, if that's a thing you think we should invest in. where we can start targeting actions like, hey, you haven't logged in 6 months. Everything okay? Here are some topics of your nature that you might be interested in. Or when you were new, when you were starting out using Jamf Nation, was it really overwhelming at first? If so, how can we use this email nudging to onboard new members of the community so that they do things that you want your peers to know about, and the ways that you want that to encourage them to behave on the site. Let us know if that's valuable. Moving on, search. Okay, so search, loud and clear, we heard you, that it's pretty frustrating. So we're doing a whole bunch of things to try and make it better. We don't expect to nail it in Rev 1. We do expect it to be better than it is today, but it puts us in a position where we can act on the new information. We can act on the new feedback that you give us. So in addition to replacing the search technology behind the scenes, this also allows us to support new languages. It's much easier to tweak that algorithm. So if you think that we've weighted likes too much, or we're assuming too much of value with it, we can turn that down and turn something else up. We can also start incorporating other types of variables. I don't know what those are today. I'd love for you to tell me, but we can start incorporating other types of variables to, again, reduce the noise and get the trusted content that you want in your hand. Another, probably more information than you really cared about, but finding something on jamf.com versus docs.jamf.com versus Jamf Nation, that's way too much ask. That's way too much to ask of you to know which thing is where. And we found out that you weren't using any of the three, let alone all three. You were using Google. So, got it. We won't make you work that hard in the future. And we're going to start indexing all three properties worth of content in the same place and serving them up. So hopefully that is much less cumbersome. And again, I'd really like to hear from you. If you started out on jamf.com, did you know it, that you were in jamf.com and not another environment? Do you want us to weight the documents that are truly stored in that avenue or via that avenue? Do you want us to weight those more when you're starting out at that property, or do you want to see them all equally? That's the sort of stuff that we want to do in Rev 2, and we need your advice on how to move it forward. I want to take a really special quick moment to thank Andrew Rose for taking the lead on this project. Of the 100 bajillion comments that I've gotten in that survey, in our customer interviews, the overwhelming majority of them about search, and Andrew is fixing that for you. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Let's look to the future. Like I said, we're going to look at about 6 different projects that I've got in mind that are really born out of the survey experience and the advice that we've gotten, but you tell us how to implement it. The first one is follows. Similar to a Twitter follow or someone in your Facebook network, kind of piggybacking on that idea where you can identify your peers and stick with them and get the information that's coming from your peer, rather than the overwhelming amount of noise and content that's out in the ether. Do you want to follow a specific person because of the value content that they create? Unsubscribe. There's a feature request out there. It's been there for some time. We'd really like to do this for you because we know when this is painful. It's really painful to be in a thread that just doesn't apply to you. It's taken on a life of its own and you don't care. You don't want to be there. How do we best communicate, or how do we implement the best user experience to communicate you're unsubscribing or muting a single thread? Would you like that? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Microsoft Office made the mistake of getting involved on one early post of that, and it edited a viral thread that
Eating you alive. Okay. So talk to us. Tell us how to fine-tune that concept in a way that works for you, but doesn't end up being a sledgehammer. That's what I really don't want to do, is create something that just is total overkill, and now you're cut off from the network that you really wanted to be a part of. Why are we going in this direction? Why are we thinking about these things right now? It's because we've got an iOS app coming. Again, knock on plexiglass. hopefully that happens in the not too distant future. We've got really great mock-ups and a concept for Rev 1. The couple individuals that I've talked to about what that looks like so far this week, we've gotten really great feedback on it. And I want you to tell me what's valuable about an iOS app for you. What would be valuable in Rev 2? Are you going to use it? What needs refinement? What needs more thought? What haven't we thought out? Please, please, please contact us and get us involved in that. A dashboard. So this is kind of addressing the problem of what's important to you. Let's say you log in, and rather than just have a overwhelming feed that you have to be very meticulous, you have to stay very current with that feed for it to be meaningful to you. What if we kind of tease that out into modules, and we've got different content types where you're looking at just a block of things from Jamf, or just a block of things on people you follow. What's the activity that you're following? If you don't want that via notifications, you want it in a feed, is that a useful module to you? What other kinds of stuff would actually be valuable upon logging in? What other kinds of feeds would you want? Are you interested in a Slack feed? Is that possible? Would you want to interact with a Slack conversation from Jamf Nation? That's what I want, right? Yeah. You can see some value in it, right? So that's kind of the conclusion that we're not. I don't want to say it's the conclusion, but that's definitely the hesitation there. Like some good value, but is it good enough? Let's think it through. This is your community. This is your chance to say, yes, that's a good idea. No, that is not a good idea. Let us know where you want us to go with it. And any other types of things that you think would be useful in a dashboard view of Jamf Nation. Feature requests. I've heard what I think is every iteration and possible pro and con of feature requests. That's an ongoing target. It's a moving target. Let's keep the conversation going on that. I do want to carve out time in 2018 to do something. Tell us what to do. What makes the most sense for feature requests? And then finally, user groups. If an advantage of Jamf Nation is to connect you with your community, how can we do that better? How can we get you with your peers more often, whether that's geographically or topically? How can we support the concept of a user group, whether it be physical or electronic? How do we get there? So that's what I'm thinking for 2018. Again, it is your community. It's your website. Let us know how to implement that stuff the best. What isn't on this list that you want to see us do? Let us know. And with that, I want to open up to you. How best can we serve you as a Mac admin?
Awesome. Good job, Emily. So yeah, let's open up the Q&A. Big round of applause. So we got the 2 microphones. So if you have any questions here about how we can make Jamf Nation better, we'd love to hear it from you. Don't all go at once.
Hi.
How you doing? So this may or may not be possible. I don't know. We'll see what you say. So in a post thread, right? Sometimes, lots of times, you get people that can go off on tangents that are still relevant to the topic or the post, but maybe they're talking to 1 or 2 people. Have you thought about maybe doing like sub posts? So you could, like, somebody comments on a tangent, and then you could start posting underneath that. So when we're going through looking for an answer or looking for ways to fix it, we can just minimize that and then continue on.
No, I have not heard that. I really want to hear more. Who decides when that something has gone tangential? How do you decide that?
I don't know. It's not Gawker Media anymore, but things like they went under commenting sections. They have the same thing where you can open and close as you go down, as you're viewing the posts and everything like that.
Okay.
And I was just thinking that would make kind of some of that comments, different. So that way I could go in there and say, oh, I like this guy's post, but I only want to talk about a certain aspect of it. So I could make it, I could post on his sub post and then continue down, and we could have a conversation.
Okay. Kind of like start with a center thread, and then something maybe becomes more like finer grain thread.
Yeah, something similar.
Okay. Let's keep it going. Let's talk about that. Would you mind posting a feature request on Jamf Nation and getting some feedback and how we could go forward with that?
Well, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I'm also noticing I don't really have a big line, so I wrote down a few things while listening
Please.
to your presentation, actually. So I noticed we are starting to see a lot more multi-language posts and whatnot, and honestly, I don't speak German or French, but I would love to be able to contribute to maybe listening to some guy's problem if I didn't have the language barrier. So, is there maybe anything we could do to solve that language barrier for, say, me? I post something and then maybe somebody who needs it in French can see my post in French, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I've been hearing something similar to how Chrome does Would You Like to Translate? If you identify a big block of code.
I mean, even if it's a bad translation, like I've seen Google Translate not get things quite perfectly. I speak a little bit of German, and when I try to do a Google Translate on a German document, I don't quite get it perfect, but you know, if I could get the gist of the post, I could write something and then.
Yeah, so you're mirroring some of the other feedback that I've gotten about something in this direction where even if it's a bad translation, you've gone in with the expectation that it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's still valuable. So if we took a stab at something and it wasn't great, would you tolerate
You could say,
it?
well, yeah, you could say this is an approximate translation of what this post might mean. We can't be responsible, hey, for the translation per se, but
Thank you for understanding.
I could at least get the gist of a post, maybe put something in, and the guy speaking French or Japanese might have the same thing. He can read my post and take it for what it's worth.
Okay, 2 votes for C translation. Got it.
Okay. You were talking about assets in Jamf Nation, and one of the assets I would like to see right away is our organization usually buys your product. When we buy our new iPads, we tend to bundle prepaid credits with Apple.
Okay.
So, for instance, we bought a couple thousand iPads this summer, and we bought prepaid Jamf credits for 3 years because we got really good pricing by doing that. I would like to keep a running tally instead of me having to maintain a spreadsheet of how many prepaid credits we have left. That might be a nice thing to have.
Are you entering the data, or is the data uploading from your...
I basically have emails from my boss. I'm one of those guys that never deletes an email ever, so I've even got my junk mail from 5 years ago. I have really good search routines on my email, and I keep track of, hey, when we did our renewal every year.
Okay.
And I just do it right now in my email. That would be a really nice asset to have in Jamf Nation when I log in. You guys keeping track of that for me because, hey, we paid you to give me
Okay.
those credits.
Cool. Okay.
Again, these are in no particular order. Another thing I thought of is occasionally there's the topic I'm going to post online about that I need some advice on, but I don't really want my students or my staff necessarily being the audience. My audience at that point needs to be legitimate members of Jamf Nation, either other Apple technicians or true members of this community that own your product. Like I may be talking about a security problem I'm facing and wanting to seek advice. I don't want to go post on Jamf Nation that, hey, I've got a
Here's
big
what's
glaring
going on.
hole.
Yes.
Let's see if we get the... I would like to see some kind of PM solution, maybe. Like
Yeah.
I had somebody who had a question that I really wanted to answer him, but if I would have answered it and somebody ever figured out it was me, they'd see, hey, here's how you maybe get around the problem Brian has.
Yeah.
So some kind of a PM system or way to take something in the very, very, very rare event that it's private. I don't want Jamf Nation to ever turn into like, so one of your competitors is Lightspeed. If you've ever been on their community forum, most of the things are behind a login wall. I don't want to start seeing that from you guys, but there are there are a very small percentage of conversations that need to be taken private. And I'd love to have a way to accommodate that.
Are those conversations between 2 people, or do you want to govern how many people can see it? Do you want to be able to invite
I
people
want to
to that
be
private
able to
conversation?
say, hey, I'm having this particular problem, but I don't wish to talk about this privately. If anybody has some suggestions, PM me at, I mean, like, you may have been on just forums on any random topic and you have a PM thing.
Gotcha.
PM me at this, and maybe somebody who has an answer might take a second and PM me on the topic, and we don't necessarily have to put that one up there, but either that or maybe have it be, say, a protected topic that you have to log in as a credible member.
Oh, okay, so maybe there is.
I hate to do that. I don't want to balkanize what is a really good open forum, but that being said, there are some conversations that need to go a little more private than
Okay.
somebody Googling, much like you just described, to search. Say you want to Google how to get around some particular thing on the Mac, and hey, there's a Jamf Nation post that tells you how to do it.
Yeah, those are all really great ideas. Thank you.
Got
Do
some
we have any
more?
more from anyone
yeah,
else?
I wanna let someone else step forward, but I've got a couple more if you're interested.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
take some of yours offline later. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be possible to have a pinned thing that talks about how do I post a code block? When I first started 6 years ago, I didn't know how to post a code block, and I didn't know it was going to strip out stuff and make the script look like junk. So some of those things that people who've never used Jamf Nation might know, there's so many helpful people, they'll come on and say, well, this is how you do it. But you guys seem to produce videos very nicely. Maybe you could produce a video that kind of shows how to use that interface. I've been using it a long time now, so I know how to use it. But there's a lot of new people that join all the time, and it would be nice. It would make their transition to using the platform easier if they knew how
Yeah.
to do it and they didn't have somebody say, well, you know, you didn't do that right. Your script's all messed up. It's hard for me to tell you how to fix your script because your script's all messed up now.
Okay.
So
Would you tolerate, as a new user, would you have tolerated email prompts from Jamf Nation that either offered that kind of advice outright,
sure.
linked you to a training video of sorts? Is that?
Yeah,
yeah?
I just didn't, I never did find anything that says, here's how you use our Jamf Nation site. Like likes, you've explained to JNUG what your intent of likes is, but I don't know that anywhere on the Jamf Nation site have you explained what you anticipate us to use the likes for. So people knowing what your intent behind the like is makes it very helpful. I think a lot of us probably knew that's what you
Figured it out,
meant,
yeah.
but I don't know that everybody necessarily did.
You're absolutely right. There is a feature request that that really asked for a feature like this, and in the Jamf response to the feature request, that's the closest that we got to communicating the intent behind the feature. But if you hadn't bookmarked it, you hadn't voted on it, and if you hadn't participated with it before, how would you know?
Right.
So that's awesome. Like,
Thanks.
okay. Do
I think
more
there's-
new people stuff. Do you
Yeah.
want to? Okay, got it.
Let's take one more question.
Hi.
Here's another new person question. So the admin bought Casper Suite like 3 years ago and recently retired. So if someone takes over, they don't have that benefit of the jump start. And so is there like a crash course to to make sure that everything is working properly when it's upgraded to Jamf Pro, aside from the administrator's guide?
That's a really good question. I don't know how much I've thought about jumping in midstream. I think we think about, like you're saying, when you first purchase, there's a care path, but jumping in midstream. The first thing that comes to mind is the Jamf 100, which are you familiar with that?
Now I am, and I will be going through that, and then
Okay.
I will be going through that track and the courses, and I know it's now you're moving away from the CEA and the CCA and the CCT track and going to the 100, 200, 300. So I'll look through that.
There's that. Then there's also those primer sessions I was referring to. There's a series of 5. One specifically about the server. I'm going to screw this up. So if anyone's from field services want to jump in here. There's one about the server. There's one about 5 very basic topics that I can't remember right now. But there's both a live session that are a couple times a week, and then there's also recordings for them. That's another good place that, like, if you miss that jumpstart experience, that might be a really good launching point. And I'm sure that there's lots of other Jamps in the room that are
Perfect.
hating my answer right now and
Oh,
want to jump in.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah, that is a great answer. I'll go through that and then leave you feedback of what I experienced.
Cool.
So thank you.
Yay.
Okay, I think that might do it. So thank you again, everyone. There is a happy hour going on in the main lobby, sponsored by IBM. And with that, that wraps up JNUC. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.